Hello, everyone. I'm David Young, host of the Drone to 1K podcast. Welcome back to Season 6, Episode 5. I'm going to let you know who we're talking to today. It's going to be Pedro Silva of Drones by Dro. In this convo, me and Pedro talk about a lot of things that will be helpful to you if you are interested in starting a drone business or you have one and you're trying to grow it. A couple highlights that I liked from Pedro's conversation that you can look forward to. Number one, he talked about how he went from part-time to full-time. I actually talked to Pedro on the podcast several years ago and had him back on as a repeat guest. Now he's doing it full-time, so we can talk about how he made that shift. Another thing he talks about is search engine optimization. He talks about what he did to show up high in the search engine rankings, which got him a lot more business. And he breaks down the different services that he offered that sort of helped catapult him to where he is. And now he figured out what was in demand. So a very helpful episode if you are looking to grow your client base and hear about how to work through some challenges. He also had a big personal loss that we'll discuss in the episode as well. So really, really inspiring and helpful episode from Pedro. A reminder, if you like this podcast and you like free, comfortable t-shirts and you like Drone Launch Academy, this is your lucky day. Because if you go to Apple Podcasts and you leave us a review, just an honest review of any rating that you want, screenshot it, send it to me, David at dronelaunchacademy.com, and we'll send you a free Drone Launch t-shirt as a thank you for taking the time. So wanted to get that out of the way in case you are loving the podcast. All right, let's get into the episode with Pedro Silva. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Drone to 1K podcast. I'm joined by a former Drone to 1K podcast guest, Pedro Silva. Thanks for coming back on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, David.
So you run the Instagram account Drones by Dro. At least that's how I know you mostly, but I know you actually have an actual drone business that you work with. So we had you on before. We always like bringing guests back just to kind of see what's happened, since we chatted, since we only put out about one season a year-ish. Typically, there's a pretty good amount of time that elapses in between seasons, if you were on a previous season. So maybe for those who are listening to new episodes, maybe they haven't heard your last episode before. Why don't we do a real quick overview of just how you got into drones to begin with, the beginning of your start, just so people have a little bit of background in case they haven't heard your first podcast with us.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for having me again. It's an honor to be back. So I basically got into drones on a whim, 2017, Walmart shopping with my cousin. We saw this little toy drone. We were like, damn, this looks cool. We should buy it. It's $50. So we just bought it, flew it around at the park. Fun times, man. It was eventually I got curious because I was into videography and podcasting around that time. And I kind of paired my interest in videography podcasting with the drones, and eventually I just wanted to see which drones had stable cameras, which ones were 4K or 1080p or whatever. I started looking more into it, and I was really learning videography and flying drones at the same time. So I was just out and about working at restaurants, mostly like TGI Fridays, IHOP at the time, and just doing that on the side whenever I had some time. And eventually we did this podcast for a couple years, talking sports and whatnot, and that was going well. So we used the networking from that to kind of start thinking maybe we can do commercial work with the drones and get a license and see where that goes. And 2019 got the Part 107 license. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but that's how I got into drones for the most part.
Awesome. Do you have a business that focuses just on drones and or video production, or is it kind of all wrapped under like some of the podcast stuff you do, or how's that broken out?
Yeah, so we actually don't do the podcast anymore. As of 2022, I've been doing drones full time. Really, when I came on your podcast last time, that was when I really started to just only do that. And I had quit my other jobs and was doing that full time. So Drone by Dro, we offer aerial photo and video. Mostly right now, we're doing a lot of marketing stuff, data research, of course, here and there, but mostly marketing and content creation at the moment. We don't really do the podcast anymore, but that's what Drone by Dro is offering.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was just looking back here. You and I think we talked like 18 months ago, really. Your episode came out a little over a year ago, actually, like a year and 2 months ago. I was looking August 17th, 2022 is last season. So I'm excited to see kind of the updates since then. So since you started your business, you said you're doing like video production and stuff now. Maybe talk about what was the first job that you ever had in that business, and I guess what was kind of the timeline of that. I'm assuming you would have had that already by the time we did the last podcast episode, but maybe just do a quick recap on that.
My first commercial job doing the drones.
Yeah.
Got the license in November of 2019. From there, I was mostly flying for fun, asking family friends if I could take pictures of their house, like mock real estate, so that I could eventually approach somebody that I knew who ended up being one of my coworkers at TGI Fridays at the time, selling my mother's house. And I would like for you to come and take the drone photos. I think I got paid
Okay.
probably like $60, took a couple photos, edit them. This was right after the pandemic started.
So you basically started your business during the pandemic.
Yeah, man. I got laid off from my job. I was bored. I had money coming in from the unemployment checks. I was doing some little stuff on the side, like reselling clothing, reselling electronics and stuff like that, just kind of supplement the restaurant money. And I just took pretty much not all the money I had, probably took 85% of the money I had to my name during the pandemic and was like, I'm just going to buy everything I need. I'm going to buy 2 drones. I'm going to buy a bunch of accessories for it. I'm going to pay for some advertisements and stuff like that. Just full
Wow.
throttle one day, just decided it's time.
When you said laid off, like laid off from your restaurant jobs that you had?
Yeah, from like during the pandemic, everybody got the pink slip.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you got laid off, getting unemployed, you had took all the money that you had essentially and bought drone stuff with it to go and start do drone business?
Exactly.
Nice. So you did a little bit of real estate work. Did you pursue that avenue for a while, or was it just kinda like a quick dip in the real estate pond and then back out? What was that direction like?
Yeah, well, as you know, I mean, real estate is one of the biggest clientele for drone photo and video. So for a little while, that was pretty much all I was doing. It was a mix of that and some music video with a local artist that I knew. A lot of people that I was already knowing from the podcast and just people I've met elsewhere through mutual connections. I pursued real estate for a little while. Just really wanted to see like how that would benefit an agent having these photos and videos and doing the research and finding out that MLS listings sell, I think, 67% faster with aerial photo, with some type of aerial photo video on it. So that's really, I still work with real estate agents to this day, just not as because, the market's a little bit watered down in that area, unfortunately. But I've definitely dipped my toes in there plenty of times.
Yeah, I was just curious. So, sometimes people have very strong or different opinions about, the real estate market. I know some people who really enjoy it and do really well with it, and other people, they get kinda discouraged by the nature of that business pretty quickly. So I didn't know kinda what your experience was in it.
Yeah, I've heard, I'm not sure if you've said this, but I've heard a lot of people say, for the most part, it ends up being considered more of like a paid practice type of deal, especially when you're working with residential real estate agents that just want a couple photos, like with the likes of droners.io, like people are going to be paying like $50 and the value of
Yeah.
it ends up getting a bit skewed.
Now, are you doing just drone stuff, or are you doing, like, full real estate media, like videos, ground photos, all that stuff, or is it just drone?
So we're doing mostly drones. I am dabbling a little bit into interior photography for commercial and residential real estate and event photography as well. But for the most part, I try to stick to doing mostly aerial photo and video for the content marketing and all that. I've been trying to grow my network of other people that I know that specialize in certain areas, whether it's a video editor or a
Yeah.
cameraman. I know very good videographers that I might outsource the work to, and I'll take care of the drone stuff, and they take care of the interior or the
Yeah.
ground stuff.
Yeah, that's kinda what I've heard. It's like, if you wanna do a big focus on that area, you kinda have to learn. I mean, just everybody I've interviewed who's done well in it, or basically ended up being like, yeah, to do well in it and to do it, like, with all your time, you gotta learn how to do the stuff yourself with shooting the interiors, in the ground, maybe some video stuff, all that stuff. If you wanna just do the drone, it just becomes a little harder because I've heard a lot of real estate agents will just kinda want one contact person, so at that point sort of have to like link up with other photographers who don't do the drone stuff themselves. And interesting to hear your experience. Now, real quick, let's fast forward to kind of give people a picture of where you're at now. You started your business basically during COVID. At this point, are you doing that full time with all your time? It sounded like you kind of were doing that more like the marketing and production stuff. So is that like the only thing you got going on is just the drone and production stuff? And then how's that going for you, I guess, financially, however much you want to share about, the revenue and things like that?
Sure. I'm very blessed and fortunate to say that I am doing this full time as of January 2022. I really took the leap. That's when I moved into my first apartment around that time. And that was like a moment for me to kind of decide, am I really trying to pursue this for real and not be able to depend on, anybody else? And that's when I did that. And ever since then, this was right around a time I had a contract doing, I think I mentioned it on the last podcast with a company called Doxel, where they had me doing basically construction site scanning, but it
Hmm.
wasn't drone work though. They found me through my drone work, but it wasn't a drone job. They strapped a camera to my helmet. I'd walk around, scan this construction site.
Okay.
And that paid me really, really well. well enough that I was able to have all my stuff paid for. So everything else that came in was just supplementary. And I was able to reinvest that into buying better equipment and paying for different types of ways to market myself, whether that's Google advertisements or any other way to promote myself, collaborations on social media and growing my social media presence and all that. That's been really my bread and butter over the last year or so. As far as the financial aspect of it, the first year, I want to give people an idea because I'll be open and share, how much I've been making with the drone stuff
Sure.
so people can get an idea. The first year that I did it was 2020. And I think from September to the end of the year, when I started, it probably made like 1,500 bucks total,
Hmm.
maybe 10 different jobs, maybe less. 2021, I think was about 17, $18,000
Okay.
with really maybe a few of them in between being high paying ones and the others all being low paying. By 2022, when I started going full time, that's when the things really started picking up with the contracts and all that. And we were making like north of 70,000 at that point for
Awesome.
2022.
Cool.
And now this year we're on pace to get over 100.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's
So
been coming in, and we've really been able to create a lot of relationships in the DMV. And something I tell people all the time is that I prioritize the relationship building and the two-way value from people working with me. I want to make sure that everybody is benefiting from this equally. And
yeah,
with that, I'm able to build relationships, get consistent work, and like I said, blessed to be able to take over the house that I grew up in as a kid. I moved back here, and now I'll be basically the homeowner. I'm able to do that kind of stuff now with the drone business taking care of us.
man, what a great story, dude. That's awesome. And I think one of the biggest things I want people to take away from this is like first year, low five figures, right? Or like you said, like 1,500. It's like the first full year of doing it, which is great to make money off of it. But I think some people look for, I'm going to start doing this, and then within 6 weeks, I'm making full time money. Like I just don't really know of a business that you're going to start where you're going to go from I have no experience in this field whatsoever to I'm making a ton of money overnight. Like that just doesn't really exist. Like everything requires building relationship, getting good at the craft, sticking with it for a while. And from again, just of all the people that I've seen that are successful, it's like they're in years 3 through 5 by the time they're actually making like good
Right.
money that is like stable and they know what they're so it, like you have to commit to it for a little while. I mean, even this business, right? Like doing training stuff. I did that on the side for 2 years, before I quit my job. And like I couldn't get it to work for a while. And it's just everything has a learning curve and you got to figure it out and stay with it. So, anyways, I'm glad you
Mhm.
stuck with it. And now you're, reaping the benefits of kind of that dedication. So that's cool to see. All right. Well, let's do a quick breakdown. Let's see if we can talk through how you got to where you are at this point. Now that people know kind of the end of the story, let's come back a little bit. So 2021, you're doing it still kind of on the side. And I think we covered a lot of that in our other podcast. Let's maybe pick up in like, 2022. What happened in 2022 to where you're able to make, the 70-ish and kind of do it full time? You mentioned that you had the contract with the construction scanning, but like what other type of work were you getting during that time? How did you get it? Let's just talk about what you were doing with the drone and with the business.
I'm glad you said that because there are some key players in this story that have helped Drone by Dro get to where it's at. It was really around 2022 with when Doxel came in and I was able to start upgrading everything. I was able to start catching the attention of more people, mainly first, it was Bethesda Urban Partnership. For those that don't know, a nonprofit in Bethesda, we actually worked on a virtual tour in the city. We got FAA clearance. We got all the necessary parameters set for that.
Let me just cut in real quick just so people have some good context. All right. Earlier, you mentioned DMV. I meant to explain DMV
Yes.
is DC, Maryland, Virginia, right? For those not
Right.
familiar with it, it's like that kind of like Washington, DC area. And you're in Maryland, correct?
I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland. I service all of the DMV and now really other parts of the country as well. I've gone to Colorado.
Okay.
I'm going to go to Hinesville, Georgia next week. We can get into all that in a minute.
Maryland's like barely north of DC. So just to give people kind of an idea of where you are, a tough place tough place to fly from a regulation standpoint. So,
Mhm.
anyways, I just wanted to paint that picture. So, go back to your story just so people have good context for where you're at.
Like you said, it's a really tough airspace. Washington, D.C. flight restriction zones are pretty much the strictest rules in the country. Maybe there's other ones that are up there. We've been able to navigate that. We learned how to go through the waiver process through TSA. We got the clearance. So they actually found us through working with Suburban Hospital in Bethesda.
Okay.
We did some of their marketing stuff for their website. And eventually, Bethesda Urban Partnership, they saw the work that we did for Suburban. We created this really neat virtual tour where you can go in there, and we took a ton of panoramic images all around the city. There's interactive, you can click and see what the name of the spot is and a fun fact about it and scroll and interactive tour, it's really cool. That actually caught the attention of somebody nearby at Marriott. So Marriott HQ, they contacted, and it was crazy because they called me, or they didn't call me, they messaged me on LinkedIn at like 4 in the
Okay.
morning. For whatever reason, I'm still awake trying to wiggle my way to sleep, turn my brain off. And I saw this message come in. So I'm like, oh snap. I messaged, or I responded right away. Can you do something like this for us over at Marriott HQ Bethesda? Of course I can.
We only work with big companies. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we ended up doing some work, and they had I think probably 2 or 3 different projects for me in 2000, with a big one coming at the end of the year. We flew inside of their hotel, the Hip Flask
Cool.
rooftop bar, a couple of really neat shots there. And with all that stuff going on, like you see the theme going on here. One person sees it, another person sees it, another person sees it, and it's been this constant domino effect ever since two rolled into this year. It's really been fantastic. And one thing I want to include too, though, it's really important. We talk about the highs and the successes. There are definitely some roadblocks and big unexpected turns that happen. In 2022, things are going great, whatever. Unfortunately, I had a loss in the family. My father passed, and that really kind of like
Mm,
threw me completely for a loop. I think my brain wasn't really working the right way for the next couple months. That paired with a slowdown in the market. People weren't spending any money for drone work like that, at least in the area. I
especially
wasn't getting
fall
contacted at
fall
all.
2022 definitely slowed down just economically, I think, in general.
Oh man, it was rough. Like I went from, making like 10,000 in a month to somewhere in 2022 to making like, maybe 1,500 bucks in the beginning
Mm,
of
yeah.
2023. It was rough. So the first
Yeah.
3 months was really, really slow. And eventually I saved the trajectory of where things were going by going back to the drawing board. I went back to cold calling even more. I went back to
Mm,
updating all the things that I had been procrastinating on, mainly my
mhm.
website. I
Yeah.
completely revamped my website. I hired someone to do SEO for me. And once all that stuff kicked in, by the summer of this year, it exploded all over again. And we've had multiple 5-figure months over the last 5 months or so. Things have picked up
Wow.
crazy. That really dark period of like feeling sadness over what happened in my family and the business being slow. I
Yeah.
was home alone all the time. Mom's
Oh,
working, wife's working. So I'm just there trying to figure something out. And that's the part of being an entrepreneur, or even a drone pilot, or whatever, full time, anything full time like this. It's
yeah.
really risky. And you might go through stuff like this, and if you're really, really committed, no matter how hard it may be, if you end up pushing through it, you could really look back on when it was rough and be like, "Damn, I'm glad that
Yeah.
that I saw it through."
Jeez, man. I'm sorry to hear that about your dad. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
I didn't mean to throw that, the
No,
but
no,
I feel
it's
like it's
no.
important to add that context.
Yeah, I'm sure people appreciate you, being vulnerable. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to going through some hardships. When was that? You said that was like late 2022?
September 2022. I talk about it now because it's easier to deal with these days. Me and him were really close. But one thing that really, really helped me though, and why I'm able to do my thing, is we had a conversation about this. He said, if anything were to ever happen, in the future, I want you to always know, like, I'm proud of you and like you keep doing your thing. So with me knowing that he would want me to continue doing my thing, like it drives me all the time. I
Yeah,
got him as my
yeah.
screensaver, and it helps me go even harder.
Yeah, man, that's cool to hear. Yeah, and that's tough too. That coupled with the downturn. I know you're like spot on with just anybody who's gonna have a business. That's the thing about business. A lot of times it's You got to deal with a lot of inconsistencies, and you can get your self-worth a lot of time from how good your business is doing in a certain month. You have a lot of customers come to you one time, you think, oh my gosh, dude, I am a rock star. Like I'm on fire. And then like you have a month like it's like $1,500. I've had months where we're killing it. We're making tons of money one month, and I'm like, oh man, this is gravy train. And the next month, you make like you said, like $1,000 in your net profit. And you're like, how did that happen? And then now you're just like, what's wrong? What's the problem? What did I do? How can I fix it? You just go into this like spiral mode. It's tough when you're relying on like some inbound stuff too, like people coming to you. Because if that stops, it's not like you can just ask someone. I mean, maybe if you have a business where you're doing face-to-face sales presentations, you can see why people are saying no. But sometimes if the traffic just kind of trickles out or the requests stop coming in, you're just like, where'd everybody go? Frustrating to try to
It was
figure out sometimes.
it was spooky, like there's times when, like you said, things can be great and you might feel like that's the problem though. A lot of times people can feel like it's time to go on cruise control because now we had, a little bit of success, whatever. These things happen, sudden left turns. You start second guessing yourself because of something that's completely out of your control with the market. It's important to understand that, if you've done something well in the past, that means you're on the right track. And if things slow down, you just have to go back to the drawing board and just do whatever you can to try and figure out what to turn it around.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a good lesson. It's a good story, especially if you're doing this, anything business for yourself, risky business, keep some cash in the bank. Don't run thin, because you don't know when you might have a lean month or something. And if you don't have
Yeah.
anything there to support you, you got no runway to figure it out. So you got to keep a little there, even if you think that, you're good. Maybe don't go out and buy that boat this month, go away, build up some more or something. All right. So you had Marriott, you doing work for them. And then you said the first couple months of 2023 were pretty rough. And then things started to take off a bit once you sort of revamped your website and did some SEO and all that and out in cold calls. Um, of the stuff that you were doing, right? You mentioned a few things: website, SEO, cold calls. If you were to pick, do you think had the most impact on things coming back for you?
In the long term, I would say there's two answers to this. In the short term,
Sure.
it's the website SEO. That's the ultimate. Ever since I started doing these SEO services, I want to say maybe in the beginning of September or August, it's been booming. We've had back to back like all-time high months. So
Mm.
in the short term has been fantastic.
So real quick, so September of August of 2023.
Yes, 2023. We've had back-to-back months that really would have been 6 months a year ago type of thing. So
Mm.
it's been fantastic in the short term with updating the website, Google Business, getting everything up to date, LinkedIn, all that, getting everything nice up to date with the SEO. And then the long term is actually something a little bit different, something I never thought I would have done. I joined a networking group. It's called Business Networking International, BNI. So basically, I go to these meetings and, we all, it's one person from each different profession. There's one real estate agent. There's one person who makes glasses. There's a guy who works on signs. There's a construction manager, whatever. It's a group of 30 people. I decided, let me be a member of this and just see what that could do being around business professionals and other people who own businesses and could possibly drive traffic towards my company. That's really helped out, just being face to face with all these other business professionals, hearing their experiences working for themselves and working for big companies and how to secure contracts and even legalities. Like I'm starting to work with one of the guys in the group is a public accountant. Another one, he's helping me cook up some contracts. That's really helped out and branched out into a bunch of different directions. People seeing my face and people hearing, I do presentations at this networking group, showing them what I do, how it helps them, kind of adds like another element to what we do as drone photo or drone pilots. That commercial drone pilots is you have to be good at what you do, but you also have to know what you're doing and be able to educate people the way you do. With Drone Launch Academy, y'all teach people, what they need to know and, all the intricate details of it. That part of it kind of helps clients see like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He doesn't just have a drone and he's sending it up. These are there's more layers to it. He can access
Yeah.
the airspace, he can do this. And on top of all this, like I said, two-way value. People aren't going to contact me if they don't feel like they're going to get something out of it.
It's the only reason they're going to contact you is because they feel like they're
Exactly.
going to get something out of it. Yeah. I think that's a great lesson, as far as growing, joining a networking group. It doesn't matter where you get, there's always something else to learn, someone else to learn from. I've been doing this since 2016, and I'm always joining coaching groups. I buy a bunch of online courses myself to learn new stuff. People on my team do it. And so I feel like if you're tired of learning, you're basically doomed to fail at that point. So more people you can connect with, learn from, there's always more to move on and progress through. I was going to ask, with your SEO stuff doing better, maybe can you talk through a little bit? I feel like people would be interested in that. Can you talk through a little bit about either what you did or the person that you hired, what kind of strategies they took to help kind of increase some of that traffic that was coming in for you?
Yeah, definitely. His name is Brian Lobig. I think it's Lobig LLC, the name of his company. He's fantastic with SEO. I met him through this networking group, actually,
Cool.
where one of the people that's in the group, he was doing their website, and I saw how it was doing for them, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to see what's up. It's not cheap, but
Are you cool saying how much it is?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I paid, I think, $1,000 for him to activate it. He has different packages for recurring services. So the one that I'm going with, I think, is like $300 a month, something like
Okay.
that. So, I mean, these costs, they seem high, but once you realize what they're doing for you, it's like,
Yeah, that doesn't sound that crazy to me because especially if you have a service that's already like proven to be good or a product that's going to sell, think about it, $300 a month. What do you got to do? Sell one more thing every month for that to be worth it to you? You know what I mean? So,
basically what he did was I went through the first layer of SEO stuff myself. I completely designed my own website on Wix, got the dronebydro.com domain and all that. So I did the whole layout, whatever. I had a little bit of help from a designer, graphic designer friend of mine, but for the most part, it was all me. And then I went through what needed to be, meta tagged and what needed to be like something that sometimes people don't realize when they're setting up a website. I mean, it takes a lot of time. You post a picture, right? And if that picture opens, you don't want it to say image.jpg whatever. You want it to say
yeah,
photo of whatever at this place so that the SEO on Google can pick up on that a little more. No one's searching
yeah,
image.jpg. They're searching aerial photo in Baltimore, Maryland, in Rockville, Maryland, whatever. So I
yeah,
combed through every last little crack and armpit of my website, fixed up everything, and then I said, all right, the rest, I'm going to leave it to the expert, Brian Lobig. And since then, he did hit whatever magic he does on it. And like I said, back to back 5-figure months, the two of the best months I've ever had in a row, which is always a good sign with really, there's even bigger things in the works that I can't speak on yet, which, maybe we might need a third here and somewhere down the line so I could tell you about that.
I'll just have you come on one episode every season, like
Yeah,
season
yeah,
20. That's awesome. By the way, I just found you on LinkedIn. You're looking sharp. You got you got a
yeah.
suit on here. I almost didn't even recognize you.
You want to take a guess how I got that professional headshot? The networking group.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, so the
Nice.
networking group, they have these events, right? And they say, listen, funny story. I don't recommend that people do this, but I just thought it was funny to share. I was in the networking group and they said, hey, there's this event. There's going to be a ton of people here from this Washington talent agency, whatever. You should come and, shake hands, pass out your business card, whatever. I'm like, all right, cool. They're doing free headshots. Oh, free headshots. I could update my LinkedIn. So you know what I did? I went to Banana Republic. I
Okay.
bought a suit, took the picture, and then I returned it the next day.
I knew it.
Free headshot with the suit. I don't even own it anymore.
Do it at your own risk. But listen, you
Do
only
it at
wore it
your
once.
own risk.
Okay. You can do it. You only wore it once. Okay. That's awesome. So you have the SEO. You hired a guy. It's going well. When people come to your website, what's the flow? Is there like a way for them to book you, or like when people find you online, what's the process for turning them into a customer? Do they just email you? What does it look like?
So as of right now, when people book me directly, I have on my website, contact forms. So really it's the Google ad or maybe people just looking up drone photography near me and they'll come across the website, go through the contact form, or they'll call me directly, they'll email me. If it's a referral, it's a lot of, email introductions. Hey, Pedro, I would just want to introduce you to my friend, this person, that person. And then we just go through setting up times to chat, discussing what they need, when they need it, get through all the details, figure out numbers, get a service agreement in place, date, deposit. And then, from there, if it's raw footage, they get it the same day. If it's post production, it varies on what's needed. That's pretty much the process we go through, going through looking if we need to get waivers, looking at what extra safety parameters we need to keep in mind, pretty much all that stuff.
You mentioned deposit. People always want to know like do I get a contract? Do I need to get deposit? Like what's your typical payment terms and in setup agreement wise with customers?
So usually the way I like to do it is this. I like to, as of late, it took me a long time to come up with something that worked consistently. This is what I've been going with. I asked for 25% upfront to secure the booking, non-refundable. After that, you are charged the rest once the service is complete and you have the footage. So usually what I'll do is I'll send everything out. If they're under contract, I'm just going to send them the footage, let them take a look. If changes are needed, we make the changes or whatever. They'll get the final version and then they pay the rest after.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And man, I just Googled you real quick. On your Google business profile, you got 55 reviews, 5 stars, man. That's
Yes,
awesome.
sir.
Do you have like a method for getting reviews on your Google business profile, or does that just happen from working?
Shamelessly asking people that I work with. I would just be like, hey, it might be the day after we worked. It might be 6 months after we worked. I might just text people, be like, hey, can you leave a review on my Google? Would mean a lot to me. If you could just highlight how it was working with me or whatever. So really like that. That's how probably half of those reviews got there.
Honestly, that helps you out a ton SEO wise too, since they're on Google. Since you got more, like I'm just gonna Google real quick, drone photography Maryland, see what happens. It's always you and Kevin Olson that pop up.
Yes, sir. Shout out to Kevin. Shout out to Maryland Drone Guy.
Yeah, dude, it's both of you guys here. So when I look, Drone by Dro, 55 reviews, 5 stars. Maryland Drone Guy. You guys are the two that pop up on my screen, and then I can click more businesses if I want. But other than that, you guys are the first ones to pop up.
That's beautiful. And I want to give a shout out to Kevin too. He's actually referred business to me. And the guy that he referred to me, he's actually become somewhat of a friend even. He's in my fantasy football league. So me and Kevin, we talk every now and then in DMs and I see his work. He's really, really good. Especially he's all over the place taking photos and videos
Oh
lately.
yeah. Well, he came. I don't know if you know, he came to Lakeland. We had like a live event, and he taught a little bit at that, and kind of helped out. So it was cool to see. So if people come to your website, I'm just checking that out. Your stuff looks great. For those who are just listening to the audio, some of that Maryland fly through stuff you were talking about earlier is on here as like one of your first videos that pops up. So that's really cool. Are you doing FPV stuff for that, or what kind of gear are you using? And do you fly the FPV, or do you hire that out?
Yeah, so we have arrived to the part that I was waiting for the whole time. We've actually been really doing a ton of projects with the FPV hotel fly-throughs. That's like not even just hotels, a lot of just commercial real estate, period, with the hotels
Yeah,
basically being a commercial real estate fly-through. That's been our forte. I do probably 80% of it, and with the other 20% being another FPV Part 107 pilot that I know. We've been doing lately, we did Marriott, like I said, last year. This year, we've done a ton of commercial real estate and residential real estate. We flew inside of some guy's mansion. Just a personal video he wanted to show to his friends. So we
that's
went
cool.
out there, recently been doing big commercial warehouses out in Baltimore. And then as of late, the University of Maryland Hotel, we just did a fly through for them.
Cool. That's awesome. And yeah, I was looking on here. It looks like some pretty smooth FPV videos. It's worth just Googling drone by Dro, DRO, whenever you get a chance. And yeah, honestly, your website's really good because it pops up. I'll give you a quick breakdown of what I think, what I see here. Pops up. First thing you see is some really nice looking, it's like a video kind of looping in the background with you flying for like big name clients or like Marriott. You can see their headquarters, looks really good. Your phone number's in the top right, super easy to call you. And there's a button right there, contact Drone by Dro, that I can click. And then there's another one that says DC flight restriction waivers to show like, hey, we're actually like legit doing this, not just random people. And then you got info about your reviews and stuff on there. So that's just really good credibility up front. Like you can visit your website and be like, oh, this dude's legit, right? And not just some random person on the internet. No, this looks really good. So 2023, main thing that's been bringing in revenue has been these fly through videos. I guess what's the kind of breakdown for you kind of to get to that on track for 6 figures number? And maybe not
Yes.
breakdown by numbers, but just kind of in general, what types of services or, make up your business?
So, I mean, a lot of it right now is either event coverage with multiple different clients that I've been able to hook up with over the years, or these marketing videos for like doing fly throughs, whether it's for social media. that's something I actually want to talk about in a little bit. We can get to the social media in just a second. So, like a lot of content creation for people's websites, for social media, like I said, interior fly throughs mixed with exterior traditional shots, and sometimes even including ground footage. We got lavalier mics clip up real estate agents for them to talk about their listing, or if somebody's speaking at an event or whatever. We've done some work with the Baltimore Waterfront Partnership. They'll call me for events that'll be like 3-4 hours long, and they have a ton of different events. So it's stuff like that. It'll be these different clients that I have will bring me on to these events, or, it'll be these fly throughs with the traditional drone shots mixed in them. That's really what's bringing in a lot of the revenue at the moment.
That's awesome. So tell me about social media. You wanted to talk about that. Like, what do you do for social media? What's your strategy there?
So basically, what I've been doing lately is I've always, ever since the beginning, tried to build a social presence while working at the same time. I'll be on a job and I'll look around either where I'm at or nearby in the city if there's anything else that I might want to revisit later and go get some content for social media, because I'm all over the place now. I go to Stevensville, Maryland. I'll go to Lorton, Virginia. I'll be all over the place. So I'm making sure I want to document these places that I'm going and put it on social media and see if it might catch the attention of a lot of these tourism pages, like the Visit Whatevers of the world, Visit Maryland,
Uh-huh.
Visit Pennsylvania, Virginia, whatever. Just posting a lot and seeing what works on social media and seeing like how reels work. And I've been growing my social media presence, which has led to a lot of traffic as of late, doing a ton of hyperlapse content, just showing off all these different areas, especially in the DMV. If you guys see on my Instagram, Drone by Dro, I've been doing collaborations lately with the Moco Show, DMV Daily. So they've allowed me to collaborate with them in their platform. Basically, I'm providing them a ton of content and I'm not making any
Uh-huh.
money from it, but it's bringing me a ton of exposure and people contact me. Yo, I saw you on this person's page, on that person's page. Yo, hey, can you do this for us? Can you do, like, somebody
Yep.
contacted me recently, a YouTube channel with over 1 million subscribers. That had never happened before until I
Mm,
started really posting on social media. So that was opened my eyes to the power of how many people's attention can be
yeah.
grabbed through, social media.
Yeah, man. Attention's important. I'm glad you've been able to get some kind of system for being able to create content like that all the time. And it's your work anyways, what you do. So it's nice. The power of just showing your work is like people like, oh, well, I want that. You know what I mean? And getting more attention. So, and it's smart collaborating with other people, because building an audience is a long, tedious process. So if you can get yourself in front of somebody else's audience that they've taken time to build, find those good partnerships. We've done that too, and it works. If you can find the right people to partner with, then it's a really much faster way to build your network, build your audience. So that's smart,
Sure.
man.
Something too that I wanted to add to that was as of late, a lot of stuff in the DMV, but I've been able to get jobs in other states just by
How did
booking
that
around.
happen?
There's a site, I'm sure you know about Dronersio, right?
Yeah.
I know there's like a lot of mixed reviews on that, and for the most part, it completely waters down pricing. But every now and then, there's a gem on there. I'm just
Mm,
searching through. Over the years, I did a lot of my paid practice jobs on droners. Like I was taking,
uh-huh.
$150 real estate jobs or whatever on there, to the point where I had built up a nice enough portfolio where I had somebody say, I have a budget $1,000 for like a 1 hour job type of thing. Every now and then you come across these kind of things where it's like you wouldn't expect that to be on droners.
Yeah.
The stigma of it is that everything is low paying. And I found one that was paying enough money that I was able to go out to Colorado. And I was using my connections as well, because I have my wife works at a hotel, my mom works at an airport. So I have all these discounts that I can go
Nice.
out of state and go work in other places, right? While I'm out there, I'm doing the work. And then I'm also going to Denver to get content out there for social media and to add to my website,
Mm,
and finding out what local pages out there have big audiences and would be down to collaborate with me. I got my content rotating in Denver, and there's real estate agents in Denver that have contacted me like, hey, if you're ever here
oh,
again,
really?
or so it's things like that. I'm going to go to Georgia in a week. Actually, no, on Sunday I'm going to Georgia. So I'm going to
Okay.
try and replicate that again there too.
Dude, that's smart. That's smart. Maybe just go there like once every bit, once a year, twice a year, whatever, and batch some projects while you're there or something.
Exactly.
Where in Georgia are you going?
I'm gonna go to Hinesville, Georgia. It's right next to Fort Stewart.
Where's Fort Stewart?
It's like 30 minutes away from Savannah, Georgia. It's the middle of nowhere.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. No, I just was asking because I just drove from Florida to North Carolina a few weeks ago, and we drove through Savannah, and I was curious. Now, what are you doing
You're
down
in,
there in Georgia?
you're in Orlando, right?
Right between Tampa and Orlando, probably a little closer to Tampa, but yeah.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I'm actually flying into Jacksonville and driving 2 hours up to Hinesville.
Okay.
So
What's in Hinesville? Yeah.
So what I'm going to be doing there is this. I came across a really cool client where basically they create websites for schools in areas that are basically in the middle of nowhere. They were the ones that
Okay.
gave me the work in Colorado. I found them through Droners, and then after that I told them, "Hey, don't contact me on Droners again. Now you got my phone and my email.
Yeah.
Contact me for other stuff." And then they contact me for this. So what they do is they have a bunch of different locations that they ask me to go to, take aerial photo and video and a couple of interior photos, and then I send them all the raw imagery, and they create websites for each of these schools free of charge.
Well, how do they get paid?
That's a question maybe for them. I don't know how they I don't know exactly how they do their work, but they contact me to do that,
Maybe they
and
have
it
grants or something.
probably, yeah, because they do a ton of websites. I was in a city called Lamar, Colorado, a 2.5 hour drive from Denver.
Mm.
Like, I'm traveling, I'm covering a lot of distance.
Are you taking footage of the school or like the area or what?
The schools individually, I'll go to in Colorado was 7 different schools that I went to in the,
Okay.
Lamar County district. Then now it's gonna be the Liberty County district in Hinesville, Georgia. I think it's 15 different schools. So these are huge projects. Like, they're paying me, well enough that I'm taking a week out of my time, and I'm buying the flight myself. I'm renting the car myself, buying the hotel myself, obviously with the discounts that I have, but it's enough that I'm able to do this out of pocket and go there and take
Because
care
the
of it.
projects pay as well. Wow, that's awesome,
Exactly.
man. Very cool. Well, we've been going for a while, longer than our normal podcast, but that's good because I mean we've got so much cool stuff to cover. For people who want to say hey to you or find out more, I mean, I know you're pretty active on Instagram, right? So is that the best spot to find you? Drones by Dro on Instagram,
I would say right now that's probably the best place to find me is Drone by Dro. If you want to get a little more personal, Pedro Silva on LinkedIn.
and
Check out
just a
my
heads up, everyone, he's wearing a suit, a black suit on LinkedIn, looking sharp.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Hey, and you know what I want to tell you, David? I want to tell you personally, I appreciate you having me on your platform because I've gotten some beautiful messages ever since I've been on your podcast. Like,
Oh
people
yeah,
talking about, yo, you've inspired me, man. Like, oh man, your story is great. Oh man, I heard your podcast. It's like every other week for like months after I was on there, people were messaging me, and
mm.
I was like, damn, a lot of people listen to y'all.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear that. I know people really appreciate these podcasts, and if you're just starting off and you want to know like how does this even work and where do I even start, right? It's cool to hear people who've had success in what they did and struggles that they had, right? Doesn't makes them feel like, all right, this is possible for me if I wanted to go do that. So, I'm glad you're willing to come on here and share your story, inspire other people and let them know what they can do if they want to. So,
I want to close it out with this though, before we go our separate ways. It's not easy. Nothing that's easy is worth it. Nothing that's worth it is easy. I am a 27-year-old Brazilian American, first generation in my family to live in this country. I come from a family where pretty much everybody, mom, dad, my brother, they all graduated college. They all, did their thing, went on to, my mom owned her own business. Brother and dad worked full-time jobs. Didn't graduate college. I have a high school diploma, did a little bit of community college, and wanted to try and find out my way. I wanted to see what I was passionate about. And I was really focusing on passion until I figure out I could also make money with my passion. And I want people to know out there, not saying that having a degree is bad. Having a degree is fantastic. If you're in school, stay in school, and salute to everybody who's a graduate. It's not easy. My brother went through that. I saw what it's like. Whatever you got going on in your background or something that's going on in your life, personal stuff, family, if you really love this and you want to make it work, push through, it's worth it. I think anybody that really, this is the cliche, like if you try hard enough, it'll work out. You do have to get a little bit lucky, but just keep pushing.
best way to get lucky is to just keep trying.
Got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
I like that. Thanks so much for coming on, man. It's great having you on this, and I'll have to have you back for another season, maybe in another year or two, and get the latest update on what you're doing now.
Definitely. Thank you, David. I appreciate it, man.